First and foremost, Elaine, welcome. How are you?
I'm brilliant, thanks. What a great introduction. Thank you there, Owen.
There you go. Well, I wrote it myself, obviously. And then also joining is Charles Tristram. So Charles is the CEO and founder of Auxano Group. He founded Auxano in May 2020 to help SaaS companies grow their sales team in EMEA. Auxano focuses on sales professionals from aspiring SDRs looking to break into the industry through to experienced leaders who have not only raised rounds of funding, they've executed exit plans successfully. Charles, how's things?
Good. A little bit nervous this morning, especially after a wonderful intro for Elaine and myself. So yeah, no pressure, guys.
We're all good. We're all friends. Two powerhouses of the talent space here. You're gonna have to excuse the voice. The reason I haven't got my normal background is that I've got COVID, so I'm locked indoors. I'm gonna try and keep the energy high. If I 5 minutes and fall asleep in the middle of this, I apologize. I'm doing my best. Look, let's dive into it because we've got 20 minutes and I think it's a really hot topic at the moment for people. So I'm going to be firing some questions. You haven't got the advantage of preparing for these because I just want what's natural. Elaine, I'll start with you if that's okay. One of the things that I think I keep hearing is people thinking about how do they stand out as an employer? It is tough to find people right now. There are more roles than candidates. What can people be doing to stand out as an employer?
Okay, so I think that what defines a strong career opportunity is now very diverse across potential candidates that we may meet. And the kind of age-old idea of something with high pay and a strong progression path has now been disrupted, and there are multiple elements that make an opportunity attractive to the right candidate. So therefore, I don't think that there is one kind of standout criteria. And I think that realistically, you probably need to have it all from strong leadership, a meaningful mission, an exciting vision, a stimulating role, progression opportunities, onboarding, learning, development, training, an attractive, maybe flexible working environment, benefits, perks, culture. So to actually stand out to a candidate, I think the real question is, are you leveraging the way that you present those elements of your company successfully to appeal to the candidate who finds the different parts of those specifics around an opportunity attractive? So have you carefully curated the interview process? Have you thought about who the candidate's going to have exposure to, where case studies and literature are going to be shared, so that no matter what that candidate's interested in, you've covered all bases through the process?
Yeah, I think you touched on something really interesting there. Charles, I'm going to let you answer the question before I go to my next one, because Elaine just gave me an extra question. So we'll move through. Anything you want to add to that?
I think is for me, all of the things that Elaine's just mentioned, and then maybe some soft skills on top of that, it's the passion and the enthusiasm that a leader needs to carry throughout that interview process that is the most compelling part, because we can supply people with so much data in and around the business and the case studies. But the reality is we want that person to come away from that conversation thinking, yeah, absolutely, I want to go and work for Elaine at Venatrix because I believe in her. I believe in the problem that she's solving at the moment for the industry, and I want to be a part of that. But then I think secondary to that is just making sure that that individual realistically can be developed. Because I don't think anybody should be making a move in this market solely for a lateral move for a little bit more money. So, energy, enthusiasm throughout the interview process, and then knowing that that person can find that next gear for you and take you to that next stage in your career. If you can come out of a process with that, you're going to win talent.
So what's interesting is you both touch on that interview process, and I think never has it been more true that the experience is critical, is important. And I guess that's speed and, like you said, the soft skills, the relationships. And yet we still see people feeling like candidates have to jump through hoops to get a job, like they haven't earned the right to be there, like it's my job, it's so special. We need leaders to be selling the role, to selling the organization. What can leaders be doing during the process to make sure that they're getting people walked out who sat in front of 4, 5, 6 interviews and going, that's the one I want? What are the little things that you see the most successful people doing?
So I think that using the most senior people in the early stages of the process is key. So if the introduction is strong and the scene is set successfully, then I think that you get more commitment from the candidate and naturally more buy-in along the process, because they've heard the meaningful vision directly from the leader in the first or perhaps second engagement, which means that they're then primed to ask better questions when they maybe move to the culture fit or meet the rest of the team. So from the recruitment processes we run on behalf of businesses, the greater the commitment from the most senior leaders in the business, the more success and the more impact they have on that candidate. What do you think, Charles?
I completely agree. I think you kind of have to lead with some of the most impressive people first, because you have to win talent in this market. You know, and even going back to 2015, we were having to win talent with leadership. So I think realistically it comes back to that emotional buy-in at all times. And you can have peer interviews and stuff like that first and foremost, but the reality is I personally never picked a job to go and make friends. I picked a job to go and to be developed, and, you know, made friends along the way. So, you know, the reality is I want to buy into those people. I want to buy into leadership.
And I'm guessing speed comes into play even more so at the moment than ever as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's important to have a quick process.
Elaine, you get
Yeah, obviously it's important to have a quick process because there's lots of competition in the market. At the same time, if the candidate is the right candidate, you're going to have a little bit of room to make sure that you have understood that they are the right person for your business. And ultimately, the most important thing is that you do make the correct hires as opposed to the fastest hires.
Makes sense. Charles, I'm going to come to you first with the question. So let's just flip it around a minute. There's one thing talking about how do we stand out as an employer. The other thing is the practical. What are the channels that you are finding as a recruiter, as an organization? What are the channels that you're finding are working well to go and find the right candidates at the moment? And how has that shifted over the last few years?
I don't know if we can tell you all of our secrets, can we, Elaine, as to how we do what we do? No, look, referrals are huge, right? Anybody that's been in recruitment for a sustained period of time is going to have an existing network that we can pick up the phone to and leverage. You know, it might not be the right time for somebody that we pick up the phone to, but they will know good people. Good people typically always know good people. So we always lead with the phone with everything that we do. So we typically pick up the phone to the right type of characters that we've previously placed into business to leverage that referral network. But if you're talking about process and what we're doing to stand out, realistically, what my team and I do is we treat our resourcing process very much like an SDR. You know, the roles, they're not too dissimilar, and we're trying to stand out in a busy LinkedIn inbox, and we're trying to make an impact and to get that person on the phone with everybody else. So I think realistically we're trying to be creative with everything that we do. Obviously, look, there's still some way that we can go with personal branding and things along those lines, but email automation has definitely killed the level of interest that you see within an inbox, and we see that across, you know, every single industry, especially within the SaaS one. So, you know, we're proactively headhunting people with videos. We're utilizing memes, GIFs. We're trying to be funny. The one thing is that my absolute bugbear, and we teach people straight away, is when we do send messages, we're not copying and pasting the exact same message and auto filling that person's name and the company and then just dumping a pitch into it. We want to run a discovery call. We want to make sure that we know and understand exactly what that candidate needs so that we can effectively match them with the portfolio of clients that we're working with. That is imperative. So we try and potentially poke fun in the messages that just get copied and pasted and spammed around the industry, to be perfectly honest.
At least you're honest and you're admitting you're just trying to be funny. Elaine, over to you.
So obviously, if you know me and you know Venatrix, then we love a LinkedIn video. If you haven't seen any of our content, then please connect with me and my team immediately, because if you'd like some inspiration on how to post a video about an opportunity that you may be recruiting for, there's loads across our profiles. We also like posting case studies of candidates who are currently in the roles that we're recruiting for to give prospective candidates a real life sense of what it would be like to join a company, the type of role that they're undertaking, the opportunities that they've enjoyed. Again, we're hot on referrals. So we promote our referral scheme to our candidate audience, but I also think that this is something that you could do hiring direct as an employer. Referrals is difficult to get started, but once it becomes part of the DNA of your business and an instinct for all of your people, you can be very successful in them recommending people into your company for you to interview. A big question that you need to ask across your sales team or wider team is, does everybody understand why this is a good career opportunity? Because actually, maybe when asked with that question on the spot, if your people cannot answer that question, then there's no way they're going to be able to be generating meaningful referrals for you. So perhaps thinking about the 10 reasons why people work at your company and making sure that everybody understands, buys into those, and can share them would be a great way to start that as a process. And networking. So as we've talked a lot about this morning, the personal impact is, as you as a SaaS leader or you as a hiring manager, you need to get to those face-to-face events. So come to the sales confidence events, get in front of people. By meeting more people, you're only ever going to broaden your network. And like anything, you increase your opportunities to meet great people.
Love this. We've got the gold coming out. And I think what you're both doing is a great job of showing just how complex a process it is and how much work goes in behind the scenes. And we still sit to this day, right? Hiring managers going, oh, we don't pay a recruitment agency, it's easy. But yet, look how hard people are finding it. So really valuable insight. Couple more questions for you. Charles, I'll come to you first on this one, then Elaine, I'll come to you first on the next one. So Charles, what are some of the biggest challenges you're seeing in your client base right now, or the people that you know that are recruiting in the market? What, try and put some context behind why it's so difficult, what is so difficult for people at the moment.
Great question. I think realistically, there's probably a whole bunch of different things that a lot of businesses are going to go through at various different stages. Probably the challenges that I face are going to be different to Elaine's. So first and foremost, I think it's making sure from that moment of introduction that we actually are able to manage expectations from like the number one day, and that those parameters then don't change to the point of where we may get to what is referred to as post-sale in our side of things, and making sure that when that offer comes through, it sits exactly where we've been managing those candidates' expectations within this market. I think that's something that we also do quite well, but we also know that it is a massive challenge that counter offer is always going to come in quite heavy for the ICs and leadership that we're working with. And it's an element of something that we're really sort of focused on and have a strict process in place to make sure that we overcome that at every stage, and are thinking about it very early on in the process as well. So yeah, I think it comes down to the competitiveness of the industry and everybody actually fighting for talent at this moment in time, that good candidates aren't on the market fast. So there's a lot of variables, a lot of moving components that we need to make sure that we get in order, from the initial CV submission and feedback coming back, to interview dates coming across, and being able to submit and to get interviews booked in, and to get through that process not as fast as possible, but as efficiently as possible, to create the right impact and to win that candidate. So I think really tricky question for me to put my finger on one, but I think it's the day in the life of the recruiter, creating the ability to be able to manage those expectations and those variables, because we don't have to just manage the emotions of the client, we also have to manage the emotions of the candidate, and they're probably going to be working with other recruiters as well, trying to do the exact same thing, right?
Elaine.
So obviously operating at a very different end of the market in the SDR space, so predominantly working with individuals with limited or no commercial experience and placing them into that SDR position. I think the challenges for companies are slightly different, but they're both based around volume. So number one, in order to successfully hire SDRs, you have to speak to a lot of people because they don't necessarily have the experience on their CV. So it's difficult to actually understand who's going to be strong in the role. Obviously, through the Venatrix process, we help companies assess that. And then from the perspective of actually attracting people, the candidates are currently being presented with a massive volume of roles themselves. So on the face of things, on an advert, on LinkedIn, a lot of the opportunities can look and sound the same: exciting growth trajectory, investment funded, leadership, mission, etc. And they're only reading this. So normally their first sift in terms of trying to decide which opportunities they're going to be focused on can be something that's like relatively crude in terms of just focusing on basic salaries, and they put in the filter to the highest basic salaries, and they've still got 50 companies to look at to apply for. So I think that the way in which we help there is by putting a dialogue around that and a conversation around that about the candidates' desires, what they want to achieve, and then bringing the companies to life. So the challenge of trying to break through the internet, basically, and digital information as opposed to like real life conversation.
Makes sense. Final question. We've got 2 minutes, so minute each, if you wouldn't mind. So what's your, just give the audience some advice around this notion of compromise. So one of the things I was reading the Bridge report, and I've got in my presentation later, is that now the average advertised SDR, over 50% of roles are advertising where you don't need experience, or 1 year experience is okay. 10 years ago, that was a very small percentage. So people are clearly compromising. To what degree do you think, when people need headcount to come in, and in a market where it's hard to find people, they should be compromising on quality? And to what degree do you think they should be standing their ground and waiting and being patient to find the right people?
Okay,
Elaine, we'll come to you.
Yeah. So on the question of compromise, the big question is, have you actually tried your hardest? So have you actually done those videos? Have you done those case studies? Have you started that referral program? Have you been to networking events? Because it's easy to say, okay, we'll compromise, and it's harder to actually do those things.
Yeah.
In terms of compromising, if we're about to step into a challenging economic time, you need the best salespeople. The best salespeople are going to have the motivation and then the horsepower to close down deals and opportunities when they're there. I wouldn't step to compromise on that. In terms of the experience dynamic, it depends what company you are and what role you're hiring for. So if you're a Series A company with minimal people on the ground in the UK and nobody to learn from, then no, don't hire people with no experience. But if you've got more of the capability to develop individuals, then yes, you can do that, because hopefully the motivation's there and you've got something to build on.
Makes sense. Charles, last minute.
Yeah, I think Elaine's actually covered a lot of the things that we would talk about. I think to summarize it from my answer is making sure that business has the right infrastructure to be able to make sure that trade-off is possible. So if you are bringing somebody in that's slightly more junior at a contributing level, then making sure that you have sales enablement and leaders that can actually develop people first and foremost and have a track record of doing that. If you don't have that, please don't make any form of trade-off. If I flip this answer to candidates out there, is that there is a trade-off for everything that you see out there in the market. You might not get absolutely everything in terms of your wish list. A lot of candidates, as Elaine has pointed out, are probably fixated on the lower end of the market, or even actually at every stage of the market, in and around the compensation plan and what they're actually going to get. But the number one thing is that when you do look at the highest grossing salaries, the reality is that those businesses typically don't have the ability to attract talent. So they're probably having to pay over the odds. So figuring out from a candidate's perspective where that trade-off is in that business, because we work with some great businesses that don't pay over the odds because they don't need to.